let go, let go, let go.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of Two Shots in the Ball. Neil Gordon here. To my left, head coach Matt Skinn. How you doing, Matt?
Great. How you guys doing?
Doing really well. Bit of a wild week here in NNS, and thoughts and prayers to everybody affected to the hard times. But Nova Scotians will keep on battling here.
Persevere.
Adam, how you doing, buddy?
Man, doing good. And man, prayers up for sure.
Right on. Well, we'll get into some lighthearted stuff here. We've got both women's semifinal games we're going to address. And to start it off, it's the 4-seed UNB who earned their way to play the number 1 seed, the UPEI Panthers. Their starting 5 has been there for the previous 3 years. UNB had the win the day before, the quarterfinal Friday. Hey, Coach Skinn, what do you think? The 1 and 2 seed, they get to play on Saturday. They get the bye. Do you think playing on the Friday helps the team that gets to, play one more game on the Scotiabank court before they have to take on the better competition?
I think it's a little bit of a gift and a curse in a lot of ways. I think having the familiarity on the floor is important. And I think it normally helps the team that played the night before early on in the game. But I think when I was coaching with Len Harvey, who's now the head coach for the women at Acadia, we did a look back at like the winners of however many tournaments in the AUS, and it was basically all teams that get a bye. So to keep your legs and to make sure that the team's fresh, it's really important to get a bye so that you are prepared for that last day. But I think there's a little bit of an advantage early on for that team that had played there the night before. But I mean, most of the time, the team that's rested is the team that's going to win in the end.
What do you think, Adam? Do you think having that extra game helps the quarterfinalist?
It isn't. It isn't. I mean, like Matt's saying there, if you have a bit of a war in the quarterfinals, something like that, and then you have to play the number 1 seed, yeah, that's great. Maybe you do carry a little momentum. Maybe you do have some fire in the tank. But then the trouble is after that, you have the big emotion of the championship coming up the next day, and all the effort that's going to take physically, everything that's involved in that. So, you know what? Maybe it pays off in the semifinal. 3 in 3 days, man, with how much of a grind the AUS is. That's tough for anybody. I mean, obviously it's been done, but it's super tough.
And UNB, they rely on size and skill, and to have to run with this fast UPEI Panthers team, it's quite a game in the end. Like UPEI is just sensational offensively. They've got 5 players, like I mentioned, that have played on the big stage before, and experience just really pays off. 16-15 first quarter, UNB keeps it really close. They start the game with a 7-2 run. Physical basketball. I really like Simpson. She backs down a player right from the three-point line, works her way under the net. Close game, 16-15 first quarter finish, guys. Maybe we'll start with you, Coach Skinn. What are your thoughts on the first quarter?
Well, I just think overall for PEI, their guard play is just so good, with Baxendale and Jenna May. Like they're just incredible. And I think you could see it, even at the national level, like just the level they are, across the country with their guard play and just how they work together. So it's a matter of, them getting going and what UNB could do to stop them. I don't think either team was necessarily really deep, primarily relying on 6 or 8 players, give or take. So it was just a matter of if UNB could kind of slow them down a little bit, because like you said, just the athleticism of those 2 guards, it really pushes the pace for them.
Well, I thought it was interesting too, Neil. You mentioned UNB's size and had to mix it up and bang a little bit. PEI didn't start Del Santo in this game, right? And I don't know if there's injury. There's maybe some stuff I don't know about coming into that, but I thought that was a big piece. She only played about 16 minutes in the game. They pulled it out anyway, but she's a former defensive all-star in the league. Literally brought a lot to the table. Going into the game, again, not knowing what was up, I thought she was really going to clog it up in there and really make things tough for UNB. But with her out of the lineup, like you said, they hung tough, man, and it wasn't the prettiest first quarter maybe, but it was fairly even.
Something that I saw in the first quarter, and you see this in all UPEI games, is that full court, fast break pass that Baxendale and Ellsworth just start getting it going. Ellsworth gets hit with one, you barely see it in the broadcast, but then Baxendale sends one the full court, and Ellsworth gets a 2+1. Like, that offense is just built for speed, and you can really tell Baxendale's ready to hit with great chemistry between the two backcourt players. It's just really special what you have. Can we go a little deeper into what those two bring to the table?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm going to say is, I got to watch them there, and then I went to nationals and watched them there as well. And, Ellsworth runs the right side and Baxendale's bringing it up, or vice versa every possession. So I feel they just kind of, with the number break and the position that Coach Gamblin, puts them in to be successful, they just kind of know where each other are all the time. And, because they both shoot it just enough that you have to get out on them at the 3-point line, that creates that backdoor opportunity, and they're looking for it pretty consistently. And I just think their chemistry is crazy. Like, just how they see, and like you said, they're able to find each other in transition. They kind of know how to take their turns of who's supposed to score when and when the moment's there, not necessarily within set plays. And they're both really good players.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head is both of you guys, Neil, you said how long they've been together at the start. And then Coach, you just said how their chemistry is just there now because it's been so long. And it's hard sometimes as a coach to say, I'm just going to let the horses run. You put in your staff, and Coach Gamblin, I think, does a phenomenal job of staying consistent, right? Like, he's never too high, never too low. I love his demeanor on the sideline, but he's found a formula that's worked, and he said, I'm just going to run with this. You said it. They're not deep, right? They play 8 players max, and really 7. The 8th player in this game played only 1 minute. So they're not deep. They're just going to keep running the floor. And that's what's so impressive, too, I think, about Jenna May and Reese Baxendale, is their motor and their fitness is endless.
Oh, man. Crazy.
They run all night. All day. Doesn't matter. 16 shots for Jenna May, 20 for Baxendale. Reese a little more of the 3-point shooter, I guess, of the two of them, although, I wouldn't leave Jenna May open in a big spot anytime. But it's just a team that you come into the game, you know what they're going to do. The opponent knows what they're going to do, but they just beat you anyway because they're relentless.
Yeah, they're just so simple on offense too. Like, they're not – they just create the small advantages where they need them. Like we were talking about already with the backdoor cuts, or, whether they get a high post touch and, scissor cut off that. Whatever they're doing is very simple, but they're able to make the right reads and execute when they need to.
And their outlets are always there. They're a little bit NBA-esque. Like there's always a corner outlet if things get clogged up. The two Laurens, Rainford and Fleming, they're good role players. They know just where to be to play off of Reese and Jenna May. It's it's well rehearsed and well executed. 9 out of 10 nights.
And that was going to be my next point is Yepes, Fleming, and Rainford. Rainford, first year in the league, she's flying in this game. Like, offensive, defensively, she gets to the rim. She misses a couple shots, but it just never gets her down. I think it's really impressive basketball. But I'll jump to halftime here. The half ends. It's 33-23. UPEI starting to pull away here, guys. What did you see in the second quarter that kind of made the difference?
PEI won this game by 13, and UNB lost the second quarter by 12 points.
Right.
Okay? So we'll put that out there right away. So this was the deciding factor of the game.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to the UNB CBU game that we talked about before. And I think we were talking about how UNB was going to score and how they were going to find places to score. And I think that was kind of what they were looking for, especially in this game. And just because, like what we were talking about, the consistency when PI isn't going well, they have really good players that can find a way to score a little bit, even if they're not clicking, at full tilt. And they were able to bog things down for sure for UNB. And, I agree with Adam. I thought that second quarter was just definitely the decisive moment for the game. And, PI pulling away, and it was kind of that difference for the rest of the game.
Well, they really started to tighten the screws on Michaela Dodig, right, defensively. Your stars have to be stars to win the playoffs if that's going to happen. And, Dodig's a great player. We talked a lot about the awesome stuff she did in the quarterfinal and all season. But in this one, a great team just said, we're going to shut you down. She was 5-19, not going to get it done. And, as you said, Matt, there's not a whole lot of other people that are going to pick up that offensive slack. UNB 34% for the ball game. It's I don't know, really, they shouldn't feel too bad about the result of how bad they kind of shot it, right? The rebounding was even. The offensive rebounds were even. Turnovers were within 2 of each. For as dominant a team as PEI is, UNB really afforded for themselves pretty well in this game, I thought.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think it comes back to the strategy that Coach Gamblin uses as well, keeping it simple on the defensive end. Isn't going to throw doubles necessarily at the post players for UNB or, do anything outrageous as far as, traps at different points or anything like that. He like you were saying, Adam, he lets his players play. He trusts his players to keep their players in front of them to do a good job one-on-one. And when you have, inside players like Yepes and Del Santo who are just long, athletic, can affect shots the way that they do, that definitely is going to affect how UNB plays.
I think a good thing to note here is that Jenna May Ellsworth is the AUS MVP for the women's side. And after a rough first 4 minutes in the second, we do a Ellsworth highlight pack. We go back to the timeout, and timeout breaks. Everybody else hits the floor. Ellsworth and Gamblin are looking eye to eye. They have the board out, and they draw up a play, and next play, Ellsworth scores a basket. The MVP has to do that in the AUS. You have to be that good. You have to be one mind with your coach, and you have to be able to take that game plan to the floor when coach asks you to do so. What do you think, Coach Skinn? Obviously an AUS MVP in Ellsworth, but did you notice that? And do you think that makes a difference as a coach? You need somebody to be able to take a play out there to the floor and put it to work.
Well, I mean, I think we could say she's MVP for the country, so she's pretty good. she's a good player. She's just so strong, and she comes from a basketball family. Her mom was the coach at UPEI at one point as well, and I just feel like she is connected to the game. And like you said, I think some points you have to trust that your players are going to know what's happening on the floor. And it's great to be able to have those conversations, whether Coach Gamblin said, hey, what do you see out there? Or whether it was the other way around, to be able to have that connection and that trust at that point of the season in an important game like that. It's huge.
Well, it's interesting. Jenna May came into the league flying, but I thought what's really made the difference is since she dropped soccer, was a dual sport athlete, played varsity soccer and basketball for UPEI. And since she dropped the soccer side of it, I think that's the part that increases the increased film time, the increased individual time, that bond between her and the team, but also her and coach. She's the unquestioned leader, her and Reese, but Jenna May is truly the straw that stirs the drink there. And really, Coach, this is a little bit for Cape Breton too. When you're on an island and there's a passion there from your fans and there's a pride to wear UPEI or CBU across your chest, I think there's an increased kind of, I don't want to call it a chip on your shoulder, but there's something extra there that you play for. And I think you talked about, Lauren Fleming coming in and Rainford and these players who follow their leaders. It's a lot easier to, because there's a passion there and there's a fire there and a confidence that runs right through the roster. I mean, you could speak a little more to it, Coach, but I think that exists very much in these type of isolated type settings for universities.
I just think anytime that you play for a university that you grew up wanting to play for, grew up watching, you do have that passion. I'm fortunate to be able to coach, Jason Callahan now. I've coached Kelson Devereaux, but then to see what like Fabe's done with all the local players at CBU, whether it be Allison Keogh, Mackenzie Ryan, Hannah Brown, these girls who have Tony Banchini, like these girls who have come up through the system, I saw them in the crowd watching the games growing up, cool. And then to actually put the jersey on, I'm sure that's something that Jenna May did. as well when she was growing up. So she just has that fire and that passion just because she's proud of where she's from, and, to represent the AUS the way, that she did, to be the national player of the year. And then, how PI ended up doing at nationals as well. It's amazing.
Ended up to be a 13-point game. They got the 12-point win in the second quarter. So we don't have to go too much further into this game. But I thought, we already mentioned Reese, and she put on an absolute show 2 years ago. She comes back last year, plays really well. This year has a little slower first half, but in the second half, she really starts to have fun. She's laughing and smiling. She's splashing threes. She's hitting passes. A ref makes a call against her. She's laughing it off. Just to be so carefree over those 3 years, where it was obviously stressful when she first went there 3 years ago, just such an improved player, and so fun to watch her mature as a basketball player and help this UPEI team make some noise nationally.
When she's hitting threes, she's one of the toughest checks going. And for some reason, I don't have her percentages for the season in front of me, but I always feel that she just shoots way better at the Scotiabank Center for some reason. She just has the confidence there. And when she's hitting threes, their offense is really tough because she's quick enough to get by you. She's, she can get going in transition. And but when she's really catching and shooting, that's what kind of gets her confidence going. And then when they set that high ball screen for her, she's able to make better reads, whether she's going to go to the rim and then when she's really feeling good, and they start going under the ball screen, she kind of steps behind the screen and starts shooting over the ball screen. And when she's doing that, there's just not a lot of players that can make that shot consistently, off the bounce, three off of a ball screen. And when she's doing that, she's basically impossible to guard.
Well, the cool part about both her and Jenna May is the fact they have the ball in their hands so much and they just don't turn it over. Like you just outlined 2 or 3 different types of shots, what the defense is giving her, she's going to take it. Jenna May is the same way. Between them, they shot 36 shots in the game, only 3 turnovers. So you can imagine how much leather they have consistently trying to keep that offense going for Coach Gamblin. And I think the biggest thing that kind of is a special ability, like Neil, you're saying she's laughing off calls and things like that. But when you can play with emotion and not be over the line, kind of running red, but engine's not running so hot where you start making mistakes and things like that, that's what separates the special players. You can be passionate and play hard and be in a stance all the time. And it's contagious. It's contagious for your student section, your teammates playing with you. And it's a coach's dream to coach someone like that. It's a special group, man. They certainly deserve to go to the final. Took care of business. Maybe eased into it a little bit, like you said, in the semifinal. They knew what was coming the next day. But yeah, man, I mean, their best players were their best players, and they got the dub.
UNB loses 73-60 to UPEI in the end, and UPEI saddles up for a finals match against the winner of MUN and Acadia. The teams had actually split. They played each other 4 times, and both teams won a game on home court, lost a game on home court to each other. So MUN, a 3 seed, they worked their way against SMU to get there. We'll show the highlight pack.
Let's take a look at how the Memorial Seahawks punched their ticket to today's semifinal last night. In their quarterfinal against the St. Mary's Huskies, it was the Huskies who got off to a great start, pulling off a 14-5 lead on this layup by Ariana Macias. But league-leading scorer Haley Nickerson chipped away, getting to the free throw line early and often, where she was a perfect 12 of 12 on the night. Macias was great for the Huskies all night long, putting up a game-high 27 points, and it was a 1-point game heading into the fourth quarter, but then Alana Short took over. Nice runner in the lane. Alina McMillan on this layup cut it to a 4-point game late, but Alana Short stood tall on both ends of the court, scoring 13 of her 23 points in the fourth quarter as the Seahawks took it 72-64 to punch their ticket to today's semifinal. Back to you, Vincent Augie in the booth, guys.
But it was a big game from Alana Short and Haley Nickerson. Nickerson with 23, Short with 23, Nickerson with 20. And the first quarter ends 28-15 in favor of Acadia. But I want to mention the very first play of the game. Nickerson just spin cycles her way to the basket and puts it up, and it just looks like, she's going to have it rolling here 2 days in a row. but Acadia, they shoot the lights out all game long, you guys. What was it? Obviously, shooting was a big factor in the first quarter, but what do you think, Coach Skinn?
Well, I think Memorial is one of the most impressive teams that I've ever watched as far as just pushing tempo and getting the ball up the floor on a make or a miss. It's incredible how Mark English has just like put this into their skulls that this is how they're going to play. And that's what allows Nickerson to put up the numbers that she does. And they have great, athletes, quick players, and they just headman that ball relentlessly up the floor. Now you look on the other side of the floor with Acadia. We talked a lot about the two guards on UPEI. I mean, the guards on Acadia are two of the best in the country with McDonald and Vigneault as well. And so this game, what I felt about Acadia with watching them, I felt Haley was very consistent over the last couple of years. When she's very consistent, like she's going to consistently put up that 20 to 25 or even 30. Like she's always in that range. But when they're special is when Jada's going. And in this game, Jada was going. And because she got going early, it didn't seem like it was ever going to be a game just because of that. Because that's how good she is. Like when Jada's going, as good as she is, she's the best player in the conference, in my opinion.
Yeah, like one of the more sneakily efficient players too, man. Like she can go 5 or 10 minutes without shooting it. Great passer, great facilitator. Obviously, Haley McDonald's going to shoot a lot of shots. But then you just check out her stats at the end of the game. She still has 22 points, 8 to 13, right? You think like she's this big volume shooter. And if Haley McDonald wasn't on the team, Jada Vigneault would be getting 20, 25 shots every night without question. But they share that role so great, and they definitely need both of them to go. And, that'll follow up a little bit in the final as we talk about it, on the next one. But I think the biggest thing Acadia did was they were just not only hot from three, but they kept it going downhill. So Jada was 4-7 from three. Haley McDonald was 5-9 from three. Yeah, that's great. But then Haley McDonald gets 11 free throws on top of that. And that really kills you. You're not going to beat Acadia fouling them like that, and if they're hitting that much from three, and which speaks to how balanced they kind of attacked it in the game. Whatever MUN was taking, Katie was going and getting the other thing. And I really kind of impressed with their IQ that way on the floor. The foul game is also what I think derailed MUN a little bit. Like, Neil, you're right. Nickerson comes out, gets a tough hoop, and you're thinking, man, she might crank this thing up here tonight. But then Acadia kind of just said, yeah, keep taking shots like that. Right? We're going to force you over some tough ones, fading away from the rim. They tried to get her moving out of the paint as much as they could. Nickerson shot a ton of free throws in the quarterfinal in night number one. And
12 for 12.
Yeah, 12 for 12, right? And Acadia just wasn't going to let that happen. If she scored a bunch of tough hoops, so be it, right? But they really, turned up the clamps on defense. I thought, as much as we're talking about Haley McDonald scoring, her defense on the ball, it wasn't on Haley Nickerson, but, whoever she was guarding on the ball, she cut off the dribble penetration so well, kept her hands out of the cookie jar. Haley stopped fouling now at this part of her career, which I think is great. And when your leader does all of that, and Jada's doing a whole lot of that too, unbelievable lengthy defender as well. It was a tough night for MUN. I think you kind of sense that early on.
I feel with Acadia too. We talked a little bit last game about Coach Gamblin and like letting them go. I mean, the one thing that I love about Coach Len, I mean, obviously a little shout out, it's my boy too, but like he's one of the best that I've seen as far as just like, let's go. We're going to run. And let's first team to 100. Let's go. We're gonna beat you there. And he is not afraid to play players. Like, gonna play 11 or 12 girls at times. He's gonna roll them out. Okay, Memorial, you want to play fast? You want to get it up the floor? You guys played last night. We're gonna do the same thing, but we're gonna do it with more players, and we're just gonna keep coming and go at you the whole night. And I mean, it's a strategy that definitely paid off for them this game, and they were just rolling. I just felt like they played very well. They were able to, get the ball moving from side to side offensively, which is a huge key to them, because that allows the defense to stretch out a little bit, which allows them to put pressure on the paint, with both Haley and Vino. And then they just have just enough shooting on the perimeter as well, that when you do kick it out, you have to decide, are you going to close this person out? How hard are you going to go at them to contest the three? Is that going to allow their role players to get by? They just have great depth and a really good team.
Well, and I think you said it, 12 players getting into the game, but the role players have an extremely high level of role definition.
Right.
Haley McDonald and Jada, they're going to shoot threes. They have the ultimate green light, but no one else on the team shot more than 3 shots from behind the arc. Of the 7 players that came in from the bench, there's only 1 3-point shot taken from Julie Sylvester. So you got to know when you're coming into the game, if coach is going to trust you in the playoffs, if you're going to get your 6 to 10 minutes of run as a bench player, it needs to be within the system. As much as you say system, they're running, but it's a controlled sort of thing where everyone knows what to do and when, and to stay in their lane. But the big thing that keeps teams honest for Acadia is, you're right, the other 3 starters, they can hit the 3 and kind of keep it honest, right? Like Sarsha Cadle, if she had to, kind of in a nutshell, she could knock down a straight-on 3. I think, Rachel Trudeau she can stay in that 33% range pretty easily. And Mia Roberts all season long just knows where her spots are, particularly those corner spots, can really drill the 3 when left open. So it's tough for teams to kind of load up on Haley and Jada, because you can get burned real easily.
I was looking to see how Rachel's going to play, actually, because I think she's really the key for them moving forward in this championship, because she is so key to them. As far as a lot of teams have 2 players, or 2 or 3, most of the time 2 players or 2 really good defenders. Okay, this is who we're going to put on. We're going to have a strategy to take the ball out of the hands of Jada or Haley as they're bringing the ball up the floor. Well, that's where Rachel comes into play. She can be the next ball handler. She can get a rebound and go. She's going to be the defensive player who's going to go on a really important player for them, that allows either Jada or Haley to take a break every once in a while defensively. She's just a really important player. And, I just was watching to see how she was going to go, because moving forward, what was her matchup going to be in the final? How is she going to play in that final? How is she going to respond to that environment? And she, as good as Haley and Jada are, I think the expectation is, for the most part, that they're going to be there. How are those next people going to play?
And Rachel brings a little bit of that, nasty to the team.
For sure.
Right? Like, she gets down in that stance and is physical and is going to mix it up on you. And I like this year too. She's taking care of the rock a lot more. Only had 3 turnovers in this game. You mentioned it. She takes some of the ball handling duties. Really, Jada and Haley as well took care of the basketball. There's only 8 turnovers between the 3 of them. And basically they got the Wilson in their hands most of the ball game, similar to UPEI we talked about earlier, with Jen and May and Reese taking care of the ball. And that's the name of the game in the playoffs, man. Get shots for your best players, and don't give extra opportunities, because MUN's a team that can get real hot if you let them, and they can get a momentum going if you let them. And Acadia did a good job of kind of snuffing out those kind of big runs from MUN.
Yeah, Nickerson, went 7 for 24? Is that what she went for the game, I think? And so obviously that was the key, is to kind of slow her down, keep her from having a big number. And, I thought that was definitely the key to the game. And then who are their other 3-point shooters? I felt, they just did a good job of challenging the shots when they needed to in the half court. Just a good game plan kind of going ahead. And, I thought Acadia, like I said, played very well.
Yeah, and to, get to that, I think an X factor for Acadia is Kelsey Rice. There's not much time where you don't see her on the ground fighting for balls, getting rebounds.
I get nervous, man, when she's on the ground. I want her to play. I want her to keep playing. I feel bad for her.
Oh, she works so hard, and I think Len Harvey is just, worked those players into such a fantastic team. They all work together. You mentioned it, Adam, role players. It seems like, both these teams, UPEI and Acadia, it's obviously easier to play a role if you're going to win the ball game. And I think, you know, Cadel is a great example. She does not mind sitting under that net and dishing the ball out. Offensive rebound, ball gets out. Defensive rebound, ball gets out, you know. And just to have those role players, like you mentioned, in Trudeau and Rice and, you know, Roberts, the list goes on for Acadia. And I think that's what it takes to get yourself to the finals.
Well, winning makes it easier for sure to accept your role. There's no doubt about that. But when you truly contribute and your teammates know and your fan base knows what you bring to the table, it doesn't matter if you start the game or end the game. You know, Coach Jones had a great point during the broadcast. He said, Acadia brings players off the bench who have started for them at times, not just this season, but in seasons past. You know, Matt, you mentioned Kelsey's kind of injury troubles through the years.
Mm-hmm.
If she would have had a full career, it would have been astronomical all-time U Sport rebounding numbers, right?
Sure.
And they're still unbelievable in the limited time she's played. I came into this game, man, 8 boards, 4 offensive, 4 defensive, and it's overused the term vacuum, right? But you think of guys like, you know, we just watched the Bulls documentary this week, Dennis Rodman, players like that. Kelsey comes in, you know she's going to rebound. They throw 2 bodies at her. They try to put her on the floor, but she still goes and just gets the rock. Right. And that's a skill that there's very few players that truly have the knack for. And that's why it stands out so much. So you're absolutely right. Like when you fire weapons off the bench like that, it's you feel like you're in a real good spot.
Yeah, the one girl who I'm really impressed with and I really like her game is Beals. I just think she's going to be a terror in the league. Like
Heart and hustle.
Yeah, I think she was injured. I'm not sure what happened kind of at the beginning of the year where it took her a while to kind of get going, but man, she is long. She's athletic. She can shoot. You know, she can do a little bit of everything. And, you know, Len and I kind of had the term mediums, like just have a bunch of there's smalls and bigs and mediums. And she's just going to be, I just think she's going to be a really good player, like a nice 3rd, 4th piece around Jada and Haley here moving forward.
And she's a little bit like Reese Baxendale. Neil, you mentioned like you got to mature kind of emotionally and basketball IQ wise. Like you can tell the physical gifts are there, but she takes some fouls that you just want to bang your head off the wall, you know, if you're an Acadia fan. But that's just because she's so fast and thinks she can get every ball. So with a little better decision making, better angles, you know, a more mature kind of selection process of when to hit the gas and when not to. Yeah, the ceiling is very high for Lizzie Field.
I thought the same for Harris, honestly. Both great sized athletes that are, you know, it feels a little Tumwine and Simpson-esque. You got these 2 young mediums, we'll call them, and I think Len's going to be able to find the guards to work the ball down to them. So looking forward to Acadia basketball in the future. Half, it was 51-37. And it ends 93-77. Acadia, you know, the number 2 seed taking on the number 1 seed. What are a couple storylines you guys think you're going to see here, UPEI versus Acadia in the finals? Start with you, Coach Skinn.
Yeah, I think this is the guard play. I think it's McDonald and Vigneault versus Ellsworth and Baxendale. Those are the 4 primetime players, you know, in the league. And, you know, who's going to show up and who's going to perform the best for their team out of those 4 players. And I mean, it's an exciting matchup. It's just so exciting to be able to watch those 4 players go at it. And they were the top 2 teams in the league the whole year. They earned the right to the finals. Those are the 4 talented players I think everybody wanted to watch and focus on, and looking forward to, you know, rewatch that game and see what those 4 have to offer.
Yeah, it was a story of who was going to flinch, right? 4 all-stars. We're all 4 going to have great games. Who are going to be the X factors, you know, that we talked a lot about role players in this podcast. Who is going to be that maybe for either team is going to make the difference. It was a tasty final for sure. Mm-hmm. One thing I want to get out there, you know, before we take off here is, you know, it's easy to pump up the winner a lot, but the Memorial Seahawks really afforded for themselves well in this game we were looking at here tonight. I mean, they came in this one with almost an entirely new cast of characters from the team that made the AUS final in the past. So a lot of players played way more heavy minutes on the Scotiabank center floor, a lot more responsibility. Their kind of first crack at the big time, whereas Acadia was looking to 3-peat. And the second half, I mean, the third quarter, Acadia only won by 4. And then the fourth was only a 2-point differential between the two teams. So, MUN really settled in. They didn't get down on themselves. You mentioned the halftime score is a little lopsided. Haley Nickerson, let's face it, was trying to do a lot, right? 24 shots, 7-24. And there's times you're saying, you just want her to move the rock. She's had plenty of nights where those shots go in, so I guess I can understand. But you got to give a whole lot of credit to players like Sammy Deacon-Sharp. Cameron Longley was 5 of 6, worked the backdoor nicely, stayed within the framework of the offense. And Alana Short has a whole lot of guts too, man. You can just tell that Coach English has a lot of appreciation for her. And when he was Coach of the Year this year for a reason. Yeah. This wasn't a high-powered team. You didn't say they got a whole lot of horses. Haley Nickerson's great, but the rest you're saying, well, who's going to score, what's going to happen? And he really got so much out of this group. So I think it's worth noting that they had a fantastic showing getting to this AUS semifinal.
Yeah, well said. I maybe there was nobody more confident I felt, pulling up and shooting the ball than Lana Short. Anywhere on the floor, I felt that she could pull it up and shoot it. It was going to be a bank and in. So, like you said, great basketball out there in Newfoundland, and they just do such a great job of getting local recruits, and happy to see them every year in that big dance.
Is there anyone other than I think it's a toss-up between Mark English voice and Matt Skinn voice for recognizable in the broadcast. It doesn't matter how far away from the microphones are. You can pick up. You guys got to watch yourself what you're going to say, man.
His voice is way more distinctive than mine. I'll say that. I definitely have a loud voice, but I think that Newfoundland twang that he's got is just like
it's amazing.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
It's the when you're a referee and you have the MUN Seahawks women's game, you got to have your ears tuned up, boy, because it's you're going to hear it. But what an awesome dude! What a collection of coaches in the women's league. Like Gamblin, great dude. We're talking about Len. He gets all kinds of press for his jacket somehow. Not sure what's good with that. I know Coach Skinn loves the Len Harvey jacket.
But I will never stop laughing. They AUS used to do these videos before and around the AUS, like these kind of like behind the scenes videos of everything. And the 1 year I was coaching with Len, they were doing like this comedic piece of what's your pregame ritual? Like, what are you doing as a pregame ritual? So they were asking, it was before the finals. So we played Acadia that year. So they went and were talking to like Owen Clausen and all these great players, like, what do you do? And the coaches for Acadia, and then they came and talked to us, and then they were talking to some of our guys, and it was just like this fun piece, like, Jimmy Dorsey, what do you do? Like, who's light before the game and everything? And everyone just kind of had fun. And then they interview Len, and they're like, Len, what do you do before the game to get yourself ready? And he's like dead serious looking into the camera, basically like, we do the same routine every game. We get them warmed up. We get them on the floor. We together, and he was just like it was the deadliest. Like he was just. I'm like, Len, how are you angry right now? Like, why are you angry right now?
What he really wanted to say was, I really try to remember to tuck in my shirt, guys. That's what I'm trying to do before the game.
Oh man, I'm crying right now laughing about it because it's incredible. You got to tune into it.
So, yeah, you mentioned the great characters in the league. I think Alan and Len had a spectacular interview going into the half.
The Acadia Axwomen lead the Memorial Seahawks 51-37, and I'm now here with Axwomen head coach Len Harvey. Coach Harvey, your team shot the lights out in that first half, 9 of 13 from beyond the arc. What did you like about your team's offense through the first 20 minutes?
They're pretty good shooters for sure. So, and a lot of them were off kickouts. It was pretty good practice shots. So I didn't find that we had to shoot one. Haley had a deep one, but you watch her, she shoots that shot too. So there wasn't anything that was miraculous, I didn't think. They're just shooting them solidly, which is nice to see for sure.
This game's being played at a fast pace. You're putting up a lot of shots, but also 10 turnovers. What are you going to say about that in the locker room at half?
I can't repeat it as much here probably, but we got to do a better job. It's just careless moments. I thought more defensive stuff for us, breakdowns there that we're just, I don't know, we got to finish plays better right now, and it's been a bit of an issue for us all season, but we bail ourselves out in other areas. But yeah, we've got to turn the screws down on that big time right now.
Finally, one thing not a lot of people talk about with your team is the depth. You've played 11 players, 8 players have scored. What can you say about your team's depth at this point in the year?
Well, it's been great for sure. Like we've got 9 new players, but you know, some of them coming in playing nice minutes for us. They've been good all season, so we got to get them into this stuff. It's yeah, it's been great for us. It's yeah, I've been really impressed with everybody going in for sure.
Alan asking the lead coach, you know, and he's just basically teeing Len up to hit home runs for answers. And I think Len shows a lot of personality, and you know, it's just a lot of fun. So what do you think, guys? Anything to add to the women's semifinal games?
Well, Alan's like the Craig Sager of the league. Like you get in an interview with him, you're not quite sure where, you know, what he's going to hit you with. Like you're on your toes just a little bit what Double A is going to ask you. But I think like what I love about all the broadcast crews is the passion for basketball. You know, for better or worse, right? Like we might get into a little more than we should. But, you know, Coach Jones loves the game. I mean, who gets more fired up than Vince, you know, on the play-by-play on that side? And Alan puts in, you know, 15-hour days doing 2 women's games, 2 men's games on the sideline reporting. It's like that's why – and we're sitting here doing it, man. I mean, that's what this league is all about. It's about the passion and the quality and the people. It's truly, you know, it gets to the heart, and that's the reason this all comes off so good.
Hey, today I'm wearing my national championship shirt. April 23rd is going to be the 1-year anniversary of Andrew Milner's death. And I have to give a shout out to him, to his family. I love you guys. And I wore the shirt for him today. The guy won 2 national championships and a national championship at UFC. And I mean, I can't believe it's a year already, but yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to put a damper on things, but he deserves it. He deserves the time, and you know, I miss him. I miss him every day.
But I think that puts it into perspective of what basketball is all about, right? Doesn't matter if you're from here, you go to UFC. It brings people together, and no better person than Andrew Milner, and what a great family. And what a run that was for you guys.
What an incredible guy, you know, just it's hard to explain him. I'm just going to take a second here to just talk about him a little bit, but it's just like, it's hard to explain, you know, a 6-foot white kid from Antigonish, Nova Scotia, who had this like eerie confidence, not arrogance, but like this confidence about him, that he made everybody around him better as a basketball player, and he made everybody around him better because of the person that he was. And he just loved his family so much and was so appreciative of them. And just like an amazing guy, like an amazing guy. And I think, you know, everything that's happened, you know, since, and you know, the scholarships that have been raised in his name and all that. That's just like it's just a glimpse in of the impact that this guy has made. And Adam, just to reflect on what you're talking about with basketball, like it's just such a small community, right? And it's just so small how close things are together. And the last thing that I want to say is one of the best moments of my entire life was on the day we celebrated his life. And we went into the Ox gym at St. FX, and that was where he used to get all his shots up when he was younger. He would just be in there constantly getting shots up. And here's Ellen Milner, his mom, has organized a pickup game of everybody who's going to be there. And it was one of the coolest moments of my life, where the coaching staff from Calgary, so myself, Dan Pearson, and Dan Van Horn, and then Ellen Milner and I, the 4 of us are out there playing 4-on-4 full court, you know, on that day. And it was literally might have been one of the best moments of my life. And it's just something that I'll never forget. And, you know, a little story there about him, and we'll keep remembering him. That's why we put 4s up.
4s up, man. The thing you don't hear, those are the stories, man. That's what it's about. That's
just another incredible Nova Scotian, you know, gone too soon. So yeah, somber moment, but you know, the basketball community is here for everybody, and really looking forward to everything that's ahead, guys. Thanks so much for the great week.
Thanks, boys. All the best.
All right, guys.
Let go.